What if the most powerful healing snacks on the planet weren't invented in a lab and didn't come with a nutrition label? What if they were sitting on a shepherd's table 3,000 years ago? Simple combinations of fruit, nuts, bread, and honey that science is now proving can reduce inflammation, balance blood sugar, flood your body with antioxidants, and heal damage at the cellular level. Most people grabbing a bag of chips or a protein bar right now have no idea that while they're eating processed food engineered in a factory, the Bible was already describing snacks that clinical research is now scrambling to explain. These aren't religious symbols. They're functional foods backed by real biochemistry. And today, I'm going to walk you through 20 of them that will completely change what you reach for between meals. Stick around, because number 12 on this list is one of the most medically extraordinary substances ever studied, and it's been sitting in scripture since the beginning. And number 20 was eaten at ancient feasts for a reason modern cardiologists would actually approve of. Let's get into it. Here are 20 biblical snacks that will heal you instantly, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely life-changing. 1. Figs with honey, the sweetest medicine in the ancient world. We start here because this combination is almost too perfect. Figs appear throughout the Bible as symbols of peace, blessing, and abundance, but they weren't just symbols. They were medicine. When King Hezekiah was dying from a life-threatening infection in 2 Kings 20, the prophet Isaiah didn't just offer prayer. He ordered a poultice of figs pressed directly onto the wound, and Hezekiah recovered. Modern science has now identified why. Figs contain phycin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead tissue and actively promotes wound healing. They contain psoralen and benzaldehyde, compounds with documented antimicrobial properties. Fresh fig latex has been shown in studies to inhibit bacterial growth. And beyond wound care, figs are extraordinarily rich in soluble fiber, specifically pectin, that feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, along with calcium, magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins in concentrations that make them one of the most mineral-dense fruits you can eat. Now, pair that with raw honey. Not the bear-shaped bottle at the gas station. Raw honey. The kind harvested directly from hives. Unheated. Unfiltered. Clinical trials have confirmed raw honey kills antibiotic-resistant bacteria, including MRSA, through 3 distinct mechanisms. It produces hydrogen peroxide on contact with tissue. It has a low pH that destroys pathogens. And it contains a protein called defensin-1 that actively dismantles bacteria. Manuka honey, derived from this same traditional understanding, is now used in certified wound dressings in hospitals worldwide. Together, figs and honey aren't just a snack. They're a 2-compound, antimicrobial, and mineral delivery system. Eaten fresh at peak ripeness, drizzled with a spoonful of raw honey. This is where we begin, because this is where the Bible began. 2. Dates stuffed with almonds, the original energy bar. If you were a trader crossing the ancient Middle East, a soldier on campaign, or a pilgrim making a 3-day journey, this is what you carried. Dates are the most mentioned fruit in the Bible and the Quran combined, not because they taste good, though they do, but because they kept people alive. Dates are calorie-dense, naturally shelf-stable, and packed with glucose and fructose that enter the bloodstream quickly. But unlike refined sugar, they come packaged with fiber, magnesium, potassium, copper, and B vitamins that buffer the energy release and nourish the body at the same time. Multiple clinical trials have documented dates' ability to improve iron levels, support bone density, and reduce labor complications in pregnancy. Almonds are the second half of this combination. In Numbers 17, Aaron's rod miraculously buds with almond blossoms. The almond chosen as a sign of divine watchfulness because it's the first tree to blossom in spring. And nutritionally, almonds are extraordinary. 1 ounce provides 37% of the daily vitamin E requirement in the form of alpha-tocopherol, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cell membranes from oxidative damage. They're high in magnesium, monounsaturated fats, calcium, and fiber. Studies show regular almond consumption lowers LDL cholesterol, reduces post-meal blood sugar spikes, and improves gut microbiome diversity. Slice a date lengthwise. Press in 3 or 4 raw almonds. That's it. Fast energy from the date, sustained satiety from the almond's protein and fat. The ancient world figured out macronutrient balance before we invented the word for it. 3. Pomegranate seeds with yogurt. The antioxidant crown. The pomegranate appears on the pillars of Solomon's temple. It's woven into the hem of the high priest's robe in Exodus 28. It appears throughout the Song of Solomon as the symbol of beauty, abundance, and life. 200 carved pomegranates adorn the columns of the temple, not as decoration, but as a statement about what this fruit meant. And modern antioxidant science is still trying to fully catch up to that statement. Pomegranates contain a compound called punicalagin, found almost nowhere else in nature, which breaks down in the gut into urolithins, compounds with remarkable anti-inflammatory and potential anti-cancer effects in research. Clinical trials have shown pomegranate juice reduces blood pressure, lowers LDL oxidation, improves arterial health, and decreases inflammatory markers like CRP. The polyphenol concentration in pomegranate outranks red wine, green tea, and blueberries. Pair the seeds with traditionally fermented goat or sheep's milk yogurt, the kind of living cultured dairy that would have been standard in the biblical world, and you add a probiotic layer that populates the gut with the exact bacteria the pomegranate's fiber then feeds. This is a prebiotic-probiotic combination that modern gut health science has spent decades formalizing. The people of the ancient Middle East were eating it instinctively. Scoop fresh pomegranate seeds over plain yogurt. Add a drizzle of honey if you want. You now have a snack that addresses cardiovascular health, gut diversity, inflammation, and oxidative stress simultaneously. The temple architects knew what they were honoring. 4. Olives with flatbread, the foundation of every table. The Bible references olive oil more than 140 times. Kings were anointed with it. Wounds were dressed with it. The Good Samaritan in Luke 10 poured oil into a stranger's wounds because that was medicine. And the olive itself, the fruit before it becomes oil, was everywhere in the ancient world. Cured in brine, packed in clay jars, eaten at every meal by people of every class. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the most rigorously studied foods on earth. Its primary active compound, oleocanthal, is a polyphenol that works almost identically to ibuprofen at reducing inflammation in the body. The Mediterranean diet, built on olive oil as its cornerstone, has been linked in hundreds of clinical trials to reduced rates of heart disease, cancer, cognitive decline, and all-cause mortality. Whole olives eaten with their skins intact carry the full spectrum of these polyphenols, plus vitamin E, copper, iron, and healthy monounsaturated fats. Paired with a piece of whole grain flatbread, the kind made from emmer or barley flour, dense and unleavened, you're eating a snack with fiber, complex carbohydrates, healthy fat, and antioxidant compounds that the body recognizes and uses with extraordinary efficiency. This wasn't a fancy meal. It was what ordinary people ate every day in the ancient Near East. And what ordinary people were eating every day turns out to be one of the most health-protective dietary patterns ever documented. Sometimes the simplest combinations are the wisest. 5. Goat cheese with honey. The shepherd's restoration. The land flowing with milk and honey wasn't flowing with pasteurized, homogenized supermarket dairy. It was flowing with fresh goat's milk, a fundamentally different food from what fills grocery store refrigerators today. Goat's milk has smaller fat globules, a different protein structure, and its primary protein is A2 casein rather than the A1 casein in most commercial cow's milk, which many researchers believe is significantly easier on human digestion. When that milk is cultured and aged into simple cheese, the way shepherds across the biblical world produced it for centuries, you concentrate its calcium, phosphorus, and medium-chain fatty acids, particularly caprylic acid, which has documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Fresh goat cheese also carries beneficial bacteria from the natural culturing process, making it a living food rather than a sterile one. Drizzle raw honey over a slice of fresh goat cheese, and you've paired a probiotic-rich protein source with one of the most potent natural antimicrobials ever studied. The combination of caprylic acid from the cheese and the hydrogen peroxide and defensin 1 from raw honey creates a snack that is actively hostile to the pathogens, bacteria, and fungi that make you sick. while simultaneously delivering calcium, healthy fat, and enzymes that your body can put to immediate use. This is the shepherd's snack. It requires nothing more than 2 ingredients. It requires no equipment, no preparation beyond assembly, and it provides more genuine nourishment than most things sold in the supplement aisle. 6. Barley cakes with olive oil. The poor man's superfood. Barley was the grain of ordinary people. When Jesus multiplied the loaves and fish for 5,000 in John 6, those loaves were barley bread. Barley was cheap, abundant, and slightly unglamorous. The food of soldiers, sailors, and laborers. And it turns out that ordinary people were eating one of the most gut-friendly grains ever scientifically documented. Barley contains the highest concentration of beta-glucan of any grain. This soluble fiber has been so convincingly proven to lower cholesterol and stabilize blood sugar that the FDA permits a health claim on products containing it. Beta-glucan forms a gel in the gut that slows glucose absorption, reduces LDL cholesterol, feeds beneficial bacteria, and enhances immune function. Studies show barley outperforms oats, already considered a heart-healthy food, in its effects on post-meal blood sugar. A simple barley cake or flatbread brushed with cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil combines the beta-glucan's cholesterol-lowering and blood sugar-stabilizing fiber with olive oil's oleocanthal anti-inflammatory action and monounsaturated heart-protective fats. This was the snack of people who had nothing fancy, and what they had was, gram for gram, more nutritionally powerful than almost anything you'll find in a modern health food store. 7. Grapes and walnuts. The longevity pairing. The vine is one of the most spiritually loaded plants in all of Scripture. I am the vine, you are the branches. Grapes appear at Noah's first act after the flood. They fill the Song of Solomon. They anchor virtually every agricultural metaphor Jesus uses. And the reason grapes were so central to ancient life isn't just cultural. It's because this fruit contains something extraordinary. Fresh grapes, eaten with their skins, deliver resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins. Resveratrol in particular activates sirtuins, proteins associated with cellular repair and extended lifespan, and has been one of the most exciting compounds in aging research for 2 decades. The skin and seeds carry the highest concentrations. A handful of whole fresh grapes with skin provides fiber, potassium, vitamin C, and vitamin K, alongside these polyphenols. Walnuts are the counterpart. They're the richest nut source of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids in the form of alpha-linolenic acid. Studies consistently show walnut consumption improves cognitive function, reduces inflammatory markers, lowers LDL cholesterol, and supports healthy gut microbiome diversity. Their polyphenol content, particularly elagitannins, is converted by gut bacteria into urolithins with anti-inflammatory effects. Together, resveratrol activating longevity pathways, omega-3s reducing neuroinflammation, polyphenols fighting oxidative stress. This is a handful of food that addresses aging, cardiovascular health, and cognitive protection simultaneously. The ancient world didn't know the mechanisms. They just knew the vine was sacred. The science is explaining why. 8. Dried figs and raisins. The wilderness survival snack. When David's men found an exhausted Egyptian soldier who had been abandoned in the desert for 3 days without food or water, they revived him with the specific combination mentioned in 1 Samuel 30:12, a piece of fig cake and 2 clusters of raisins. His spirit revived. His strength returned. This wasn't coincidence. It was precise traditional knowledge about which foods restore a depleted body fastest. Dried figs concentrate the minerals and fiber of fresh figs into a shelf-stable, calorie-dense package. Potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, B vitamins, all present in quantities that make dried figs one of the most nutritionally dense portable foods ever eaten. The soluble fiber in dried figs slows digestion, feeds gut bacteria, and moderates the blood sugar impact of their natural sugars. Raisins provide rapid glucose for energy restoration, plus resveratrol, tartaric acid which supports digestive health, and iron in a form that pairs well with the fiber matrix. Together, these 2 foods provide exactly what a depleted body needs: fast available sugar for immediate energy, sustained fiber for blood sugar stability, minerals for electrolyte and enzyme function, and antioxidants to begin addressing oxidative stress from physical exertion. This is the biblical sports recovery snack. It required no refrigeration, no preparation, and it brought an exhausted man back from the edge. Carry a small bag of this. You now have the original trail mix, and it's been clinically validated by 3,000 years of human survival. 9. Lentil dip with flatbread. The birthright bowl. Esau trades his birthright for a bowl of red lentil stew. That has seemed extreme to people for centuries until you understand what lentils actually are. In the ancient world, lentils weren't humble peasant food. They were survival food. Calorie-dense, protein-rich, shelf-stable for years when dried, and nutritionally extraordinary in ways that made them worth more than they looked. Lentils are one of the highest plant-based protein sources at around 18 grams per cooked cup, along with iron, folate, zinc, magnesium, and potassium. They have a remarkably low glycemic index, despite their carbohydrate content, providing steady energy without blood sugar spikes. Their high fiber content feeds gut bacteria and reduces cholesterol. And in population research, communities around the world that live the longest consistently eat large amounts of legumes. A simple lentil dip, red lentils cooked down with cumin, coriander, and garlic, mashed smooth with olive oil, and spread onto barley or whole wheat flatbread is one of the most nutritionally complete snacks it's possible to make from simple ingredients. Protein and slow carbohydrate from the lentils, anti-inflammatory fat from the olive oil, antimicrobial compounds from the garlic and cumin, digestive support from the coriander. Esau was hungry, but the people who built their diet on lentils built the longest living bodies in the ancient world. The birthright wasn't a bad trade. He just made it at the wrong moment. 10. Cucumbers with salt and vinegar. The Egyptian memory. When the Israelites are wandering in the wilderness eating only manna, they break down and cry. Numbers 11:5 gives us their exact lament. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt for nothing. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. They didn't miss gold. They missed cucumbers. That tells you something about how central this food was to daily life in the ancient Near East, and how deeply the body registers its absence. Cucumbers are 96% water, making them one of the most hydrating foods on Earth. But they also contain cucurbitacins, compounds with documented anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, along with silica that supports connective tissue health, vitamin K for blood clotting and bone strength, and potassium and magnesium for electrolyte balance. Sliced and dressed with a pinch of sea salt and a splash of vinegar. The way cucumbers were eaten in traditional Egyptian and Middle Eastern food preservation culture. You add 2 important layers. Sea salt provides trace minerals and makes the cucumber's moisture and nutrients more bioavailable. Vinegar, particularly raw apple cider vinegar with the mother intact, has been shown in clinical trials to improve insulin sensitivity, lower post-meal blood sugar, and support digestive enzyme activity. This is the most underrated snack on this list. 3 simple ingredients. 0 preparation beyond slicing. The Israelites cried for it. Once you understand why, you won't take it for granted either. 11. Roasted chickpeas with cumin. The tithe-worthy spice. In Matthew 23:23, Jesus criticizes the Pharisees for meticulously tithing even their garden herbs, mint, dill, and cumin, while neglecting justice and mercy. The fact that cumin was being tithed tells you exactly how valuable it was. You tithe things of real worth, and the thing being tithed here was not decorative. Cumin has been used medically for 4,000 years across the Middle East, India, and North Africa for digestion, blood sugar control, and infection. Modern research has confirmed every traditional use. Its active compound cuminaldehyde demonstrates antimicrobial effects against a wide range of bacteria and fungi. Studies show cumin lowers fasting blood sugar and improves insulin sensitivity in people with type 2 diabetes. It stimulates bile production and digestive enzyme activity, reducing bloating and improving nutrient absorption. 3 grams of cumin provides about 20% of daily iron needs. Chickpeas roasted with cumin and sea salt give you a crunchy, portable snack with substantial plant protein, prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, iron, folate, and manganese, combined with cumin's blood sugar regulation and antimicrobial protection. This was a daily food combination across the ancient biblical world. Jesus mentioned cumin because everyone in his audience grew it, cooked with it, and paid taxes on it. It was that important. And roasted chickpeas were the vehicle that carried it. 12. Honeycomb, the living antimicrobial. Here is number 12, the one I mentioned at the opening. Jonathan dips his rod in honeycomb in 1 Samuel 14, and his eyes brightened. Proverbs 16:24 calls pleasant words like a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. And when the resurrected Jesus appears to his disciples, and they offer him food to prove he is physically present, he eats a piece of broiled fish and honeycomb. Luke 24:42. Of all the foods available, that's what was offered. This is not coincidence. Honeycomb was the most medically prestigious food in the ancient world. And here's what makes honeycomb specifically different from even raw liquid honey. It's the whole product. Beeswax cells intact. Propolis present. Pollen present. The wax itself contains long-chain alcohols and esters with anti-inflammatory properties. Propolis, the resinous compound bees use to seal the hive, is one of the most potent natural antimicrobials ever studied, with documented activity against bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even antibiotic-resistant strains. Clinical research on honeycomb and raw honey has confirmed activity against MRSA, H. pylori, Candida, and herpes simplex virus. The hydrogen peroxide generation, the defensin-1 protein, the low pH, the propolis compounds, eaten together in the whole honeycomb, these mechanisms are all present simultaneously. Chew a square of raw honeycomb. The wax is safe to eat. The propolis and pollen are medicinal. The honey is antimicrobial. This is the most concentrated healing snack on this list, in the most compact form nature has ever produced. The ancient world treated it as a gift from heaven. The biochemistry agrees. 13. Pistachios and dates, the patriarch's luxury pack. When Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to negotiate grain during a famine in Genesis 43:11, he tells them to bring gifts for the Egyptian official, and pistachios make the list alongside honey, spices, myrrh, and almonds. If Jacob thought pistachios were appropriate gifts for Egyptian royalty, you now understand what they were worth. These were not cheap snacks. They were treasure. Pistachios are uniquely high in lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids associated with eye health and protection against macular degeneration. They contain more potassium than most nuts, supporting blood pressure regulation. They have an unusually high ratio of essential amino acids for a plant food, and studies have shown that regular pistachio consumption significantly increases beneficial gut bacteria, particularly bifidobacterium, more so than most other nuts tested. Paired with dates, the rapid energy, mineral-rich survival fruit of the ancient world, you get fast glucose for energy, slow fat, and protein from the pistachios, and a combined fiber matrix that moderates blood sugar while feeding the gut microbiome. Clinical research on pistachios specifically has demonstrated improvements in lipid profiles, blood sugar control, and inflammatory markers. Their relatively low caloric absorption due to cell wall structure means more satiety per calorie than the label suggests. Jacob understood value. He sent these to impress the most powerful nation on earth. Eat a handful of pistachios with 3 or 4 dates. You're eating what the patriarch thought was worth trading. 14. Pomegranate molasses on bread. The red medicine. The pomegranate's medicine doesn't stop at the seeds. Traditional cultures across the Middle East, cultures that produced the biblical texts, used every part of this fruit. The rind brewed into tea for intestinal infections and parasites. The juice reduced and concentrated into the dark, intensely flavored syrup known as pomegranate molasses, used as both food and medicine across Lebanon, Syria, and the broader Levant for centuries. When you concentrate pomegranate juice down into molasses, the polyphenol content increases dramatically per unit volume. The punicalagins, the anthocyanins, the ellagic acid, all present in a form your gut absorbs with remarkable efficiency. Studies on pomegranate extracts show anti-cancer properties against breast, prostate, and colon cancer cells in laboratory research. Clinical trials demonstrate reductions in systolic blood pressure, LDL oxidation, and arterial plaque progression. Spread pomegranate molasses on a piece of whole grain flatbread. The bread provides fiber and complex carbohydrates. The molasses delivers one of the highest antioxidant concentrations available in a food product. A thin layer contains polyphenol equivalents that compete with pharmaceutical-grade supplements. This was a condiment in the ancient world, sitting on every table the way ketchup sits on modern ones. What was ordinary table food then is extraordinary medicine now, and most people have never heard of it. 15. Fresh grapes with cheese, the vine and the pasture. This is the simplest snack on the list, and it's one of the most nutritionally elegant. Fresh whole grapes, skin on, seeds included if you can manage them, eaten alongside a simple aged cheese from goat or sheep's milk. This is what a shepherd's midday break looked like in the hill country of ancient Israel. And it turns out the nutritional logic behind this pairing is almost exactly what a modern sports dietitian would design. Grapes provide fast carbohydrate for energy, resveratrol and quercetin for cardiovascular protection, potassium for blood pressure regulation, and antioxidants that reduce oxidative damage from physical activity. Cheese provides protein and saturated fat that slow gastric emptying and prevent the blood sugar spike the grapes might otherwise cause. The calcium in aged cheese, the caprylic acid from the goat milk fat, and the live cultures in naturally aged cheese add antimicrobial and gut-supportive benefits. Together, fast energy moderated by protein and fat, antioxidants for cellular protection, and minerals for sustained function. The vine and the pasture, two of the central agricultural images of the entire Bible, combined into one snack that balances macronutrients intuitively. The people of the biblical world ate this because it was what they had. We should eat it because we now understand exactly why it works. 16. Roasted almonds with sea salt, the watchful nut. God told Moses to design the lampstand of the tabernacle, the menorah, with cups shaped like almond blossoms. Aaron's rod miraculously budded with almonds. The almond was the symbol of divine watchfulness, chosen because it's the first tree to awaken in spring, blooming before any other. Sacred architecture was built around the shape of this nut's flower, and the nut inside that flower is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth. 1 ounce of almonds delivers 37% of daily vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cell membranes from oxidative damage. They provide monounsaturated fats that the heart uses efficiently, magnesium that supports over 300 enzymatic reactions and is deficient in a large portion of the modern population, and fiber that feeds gut bacteria rather than being stored as fat. Clinical trials show almonds lower LDL cholesterol, reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes, and support healthy body weight by promoting satiety. Lightly roasted with a pinch of sea salt, the way nuts would have been prepared over an open fire in the ancient world. The slight heat increases the bioavailability of certain antioxidants, while the sea salt provides trace minerals including magnesium, potassium, and iodine in their most natural form. This is a 10-second preparation that produces a snack the biblical world built sacred architecture around honoring. Eat a small handful. That's what the ancient world called breakfast. 17. Fig cakes, the prophet's prescription. We return to figs here because the fig cake deserves its own entry. Not the fresh fruit, not the dried whole fig. The cake, pressed dried figs, concentrated into a dense, shelf-stable block that could be carried for weeks and used medicinally as well as for food. This is the specific preparation Isaiah ordered when King Hezekiah was dying. In 2 Kings 27, a lump of figs, a fig cake pressed together, is placed directly on the infected boil, and the king recovers. When you press dried figs together into a cake, you concentrate their phycin enzyme content, their benzaldehyde antimicrobial compounds, their polyphenols, and their mineral density. Dried fig cakes contain iron, calcium, potassium, and magnesium in concentrations that rival most modern supplements. The pectin fiber in concentrated form has been shown to feed gut bacteria more effectively per gram than almost any other fruit fiber. Eaten as a snack, a small fig cake provides sustained energy from natural sugars buffered by extremely high fiber content, meaning the glucose releases slowly and steadily rather than spiking. It provides minerals for enzymatic function. It delivers antimicrobial compounds that protect the gut lining, and it was portable enough to sustain armies on campaign, prophets in the desert, and traders on month-long journeys. Isaiah knew what he was prescribing. The mechanism just had to wait 3,000 years for science to explain. 18. Bread dipped in olive oil and herbs. The ancient table, Ruth 2:14. Boaz says to Ruth, "Come here and eat of the bread, and dip your morsel in the vinegar." The ancient table's standard practice was bread as the vehicle for everything else. Oil, herbs, salt, vinegar. Because bread was not the point. Bread was the delivery system. What you dipped it in was the medicine. Whole grain flatbread dipped in cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil with fresh or dried herbs. Hyssop, oregano, thyme, rosemary is one of the most anti-inflammatory snacks it's possible to assemble. Olive oil provides oleocanthal, working like ibuprofen to reduce inflammation. Hyssop contains carvacrol and thymol, the same antimicrobial compounds found in pharmaceutical-grade antiseptics. Oregano oil is one of the most potent natural antimicrobials ever studied. Rosemary contains rosmarinic acid with documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. The herbs of the biblical world weren't garnish. They were medicine delivered in food form. The ritual of dipping bread in oil was functional. It was how you got antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant compounds into the body with every meal, every day, without thinking of it as medicine. The ancient world's relationship with food and medicine was not separate. This snack is the perfect expression of that unified understanding. 19. Melon slices with mint. The remembered food. Melons are in that same lament from Numbers 11, right alongside the cucumbers and garlic that the Israelites mourned in the wilderness. They missed melons enough to cry about them. After weeks of manna, their bodies were sending clear signals about what was missing, and melon was on that list. Watermelon and muskmelon, the varieties most closely associated with ancient Egyptian and Near Eastern cultivation, are extraordinarily hydrating and rich in specific compounds that modern science finds remarkable. Watermelon contains lycopene in concentrations that exceed cooked tomatoes, and lycopene is one of the most potent antioxidants ever studied for cardiovascular and prostate health. Watermelon also contains citrulline, an amino acid that the body converts to arginine, which relaxes blood vessels and improves circulation. Muskmelon varieties are rich in beta-carotene, vitamin C, folate, and potassium. Fresh mint, a common wild herb throughout the ancient Near East, and one of the herbs Jesus specifically mentions alongside cumin and dill in Matthew 23. Adds rosmarinic acid for antioxidant support, menthol for digestive relief and cooling, and volatile compounds with antimicrobial properties. Melon slices with fresh mint is cooling, hydrating, anti-inflammatory, and nutrient-dense. The Israelites mourned it because their bodies knew what they were losing. The body always knows. This list is the science of listening to that knowledge. 20. Raisin cakes with honey and spices. The feast food that healed. We end where the ancient feasts ended, with raisin cakes. These appear repeatedly in ancient Near Eastern food tradition as both celebratory food and restorative medicine. They were dense, sweet, concentrated, and treated as something special, saved for feasts, presented as offerings, given to restore strength. Raisins are concentrated grapes, and in that concentration, their resveratrol, tartaric acid, iron, potassium, and polyphenols become dramatically more dense per gram than the fresh fruit. Tartaric acid specifically supports digestive health by feeding gut bacteria and improving mineral absorption. The natural sugars provide rapid energy. The iron makes raisin cakes historically valuable for treating fatigue and anemia, particularly in women. Press raisins into a dense cake with raw honey and cinnamon and cardamom, the spices that flavored festive food throughout the ancient biblical world. And you add layers: honey's antimicrobial protection and enzyme content, cinnamon's documented ability to improve insulin sensitivity and lower fasting blood sugar, and cardamom's anti-inflammatory compounds and digestive support. Clinical trials on cinnamon in particular have shown significant improvements in blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes. This is the feast snack that worked as medicine. Rich enough to feel celebratory, functional enough to restore a depleted body, preserved enough to travel and keep. It ended the feast because it was the culmination, the densest concentration of everything the land produced, pressed together, sweetened with honey, spiced for both flavor and healing. 20 snacks, thousands of years of use, and every single one of them backed by modern science that keeps arriving at the same conclusions the ancient world had already built its diet around. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The people who ate these foods weren't primitive. They were observant. They paid attention to what sustained them, what restored them when they were sick, what gave them energy for labor and clarity for thought. And they passed that knowledge down in their cooking, in their feasts, in their sacred rituals, and yes, in their scriptures. And now, modern nutrition science, with its clinical trials and its biochemical analysis, keeps finding that they were right. Not always for the reasons they articulated, but right. Figs heal wounds. Honey kills bacteria. Pomegranate protects the heart. Cumin regulates blood sugar. Honeycomb carries compounds we still haven't fully mapped. The book wasn't prescribing supplements. It was describing a way of eating that was so aligned with human biology that 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom looks almost identical to what cutting-edge nutrition research is recommending today. The foods that got forgotten are the foods most worth remembering. Before I let you go, quality matters. The difference between genuine raw honeycomb from a local beekeeper and the processed honey at a grocery store is not a small difference. The difference between heirloom fig varieties grown in living soil and conventional produce is measurable in every nutrient category. If you want to access these foods in their real form, I've put together links in the description to the sources I actually trust for raw honey, for heirloom seeds, for ancient grains. And if this video reminded you of how different food was supposed to be, drop a comment below. Tell me which snack surprised you most. Are you team honeycomb, team fig cake, team dates and pistachios? I read every comment. If you haven't subscribed to Homestead Roots, hit that button now and ring the bell. We post every week and we're just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.